evening. I'm Delicia Fletcher.
And I'm Paul Moore.
With this edition of the 6 o'clock news for today, Tuesday, September 23, 2008. Here's what's happening, Paul.
Thanks, Delicia. More than 60 pumps have been deployed across the country to assist in drainage and irrigation works, with some $10 million spent for this year. Agriculture Minister Robert Prasad made this statement on a visit to Potentia on the West Bank, Demerara, where he met farmers. He pointed out that investments made into the buying of equipment has been found to be more dependable than the hiring of contractors to do earthen works. He also visited the Jonestown Mahaika sluice last Saturday to inspect works on the sluice there that had to be rehabilitated. The visits were part of the promotion of the Grow More campaign, where seeds and planting materials were distributed to residents and farmers of both areas. Records have shown that the export for rice have been surpassed for this year when compared to the corresponding period of 2007. This is according to General Manager of the Guyana Rice Development Board, Jagnarine Singh, who noted that rice exports are on track as it relates to budgetary projections. Here's that report.
Had 234,000 tons for exports to around 67 million. To date, at the end of August, we have exported 180,000 tons, and the value is over 70 million US dollars because of the increase in prices of rice. We would have passed the value for exports as we had predicted last year, because no one would have seen that the price of rice would have risen to that level during the March to May period.
The General Manager of the Guyana Rice Development Board, Jagnarine Singh. He explained that the price for rice will not decrease because, similarly to the rest of the world, the cost of inputs has been on the increase and they would continue to increase.
It cannot and it will not go down back to the last year price level simply because the input costs all around the world. We are using the same thing in the rice. We're using fuel to prepare the land, we're using fertilizer to grow the rice. So all around the world, that would have gone up. So the cost of production would have definitely gone up.
Meanwhile, for this crop, it was estimated that 62,248 hectares which was sowed would yield in excess of 170,000 tons of rice. Harvesting started late in August and is only 12% completed in regions 2, 3 and 4. To date, about $500,000 of paddy have been harvested, which is equivalent to 20,000 tons of rice. Here again, according to the General Manager, this was not the projected target.
That's way above the target because we had targeted 161,000 tons of rice, you know. The reason being is that in the budget we would have targeted 59,200 hectares to be sowed. But we end up, because of the price and the demand in the market, we would have gone over the 62,000 hectares.
Singh pointed out that even though the weather did not affect the harvesting period or the crop, he is, however, reiterating that farmers utilize the harvesting time since it's rather difficult to do so after that period has passed. Additionally, he noted that it could be costly and even result in farmers not making the expected profit. Rice is the second largest agriculture subsector in Guyana, second only to sugar. It accounts for approximately 4% of Guyana's total gross domestic product. Ernestine Jagnarine reporting for the NCN 6 o'clock news.
The committee that was formed by the Tomeri squatters today met airport authorities to continue discussions on their relocation. Over 60 names were submitted for house lots to aid in the transition process. More in the Akila Jacobs report.
CGIA Ramesh Gir, in a telephone interview with NCN, says some 70 names of displaced Tomeri residents were submitted for house lots. Mr. Gir says he is unable to pronounce how long the process will take, but notes that the group seems eager to speed up the process. He says too that the airport authorities are prepared to work with the members. Meanwhile, Transport and Hydraulics Minister Robson Ben told NCN that the Ministry of Housing will speed up the process since it's an urgent concern by the administration. He noted that Land Zone Survey has identified 2 locations for relocating the squatters, but was tight-lipped about the areas. Minister Ben had stated last week that government will make the transition process seamless, but it requires full support from the squatters. The squatters last week had agreed to remove from the airport reserved land under certain conditions. Acting President Samuel Hines believes that the presence of the squatters constitutes major threats to the airport's operations in accordance with international norms of aviation safety.
The status of the airport for international aviation transport risks being downgraded with obvious consequences to Guyana, Guyanese and sectors that depend on international air transport.
Mr. Hines said government stands firm in support of ridding the Timehri area of squatters. He said too that the area has been discovered as a safe haven for criminals and illegal activities.
This act is in the wake of the following: the discovery of the hideout of dangerous criminals in the neighboring squatting area, the theft and recovery of stolen equipment from the airport, and the burgeoning numbers of illegal structures being erected there.
The acting president noted, however, that squatters will be treated in accordance with the well-established norms of government. Reporting for the 6 o'clock news, Akila Jacobs.
United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has urged world leaders to rise to the challenge of global leadership and work together to solve climate change and food crisis. He opened the General Assembly this morning, at which President Barry Jagdeo addressed the reform of the UN in the afternoon session. Here are details.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon told world leaders that while the effects of the global food crisis might have faded in the media, it is still affecting countries around the world. The Secretary General said the body is focused on getting seeds and fertilizer into the hands of small farmers as they aim to create a green revolution, but are lacking when it comes to new resources. Ban Ki-moon says the international community has not matched word with deeds. Meanwhile, the Secretary General says the global financial crisis endangers all activities of the United Nations, financing for development, social spending in rich and poor nations, the Millennium Development Goal, among others. Ban Ki-moon says if ever there was a call to collective action, a call for global leadership, it is now. Meanwhile, President Barry Jagdeo addressed the meetings this afternoon on the reform of the UN and the WTO. Prior to his departure, President Jagdeo said he will extend his presentation to include other global issues.
And my speech would focus on the reform of the United Nations itself and also the global food crisis. These are the two issues that are there for debate.
The Guyanese leader is the only CARICOM head to address the gathering of the world leaders. Meanwhile, the President of the United Nations General Assembly, Miguel Diaz-Cotto, called for the 192 member states to choose the path of solidarity to overturn what he described as a culture of selfishness that allow millions of people worldwide to suffer in poverty. Diaz-Cotto, referring to the current issues of climate change, high food prices, natural disasters and the current global financial troubles, said that it was time to change the way peoples and countries interact with each other. The meeting will continue tomorrow with a number of sessions on the cards. Edward Lane, the 6 o'clock news.
Random checks in southern Georgetown have revealed that residents are still receiving low water pressure. Yesterday, the Guyana Water Incorporated said full service would be restored to the southern section of the city today. Meanwhile, Public Relations Officer Raul Aaron says the company is working to restore full water pressure and will deal with other complaints as well. Repairs are ongoing on the 16-inch main since materials which eventually had to be sourced from overseas arrived later than expected. The new administration of the Greenheart Medical University has taken control and is hoping to restore the integrity of the school and rebuild the reputation even after the school recently faced accusations of being insincere. Kevin Holder, the new CEO of the university, says he is hoping to make a fresh start and create a university which will benefit everyone. Natasha Smith has more.
Earlier this year, the Greenheart Medical University was in the spotlight as the administration was accused of being less than honest by students who were promised visas and were left stranded in the country as a result of failure to do so. The students had claimed that the medical university was not conducive to learning, as it did not have basic facilities such as a laboratory. Kevin Holder, the new Chief Executive Officer of the university, says he intends to revive a positive image of the university by providing quality training to students and restore the integrity of the school. Mr. Holder said it was unfortunate what the previous administration did.
I think that some of the things that they did were so wrong that they would be considered criminal. I have learned more since I've been here, and that's why I'm here, is to make sure that those mistakes are not repeated and that the issues are redressed that have been left undone.